Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. We're into May now, and that means a new prompt for the Mixed Media Emporium. And Nina and I have decided on the theme of nature for this month. So I'm starting here with a cereal box. I've already used a little bit out of this, but I'm going to use a couple of pieces from this, a centrepiece and one of the main panels. And what I'm going to do is to just cut these out. What I'm going to make this month, or this week I should say, and I'm not entirely certain what to call them, is kind of mini framed art wall hangings. I will try and come up with a snappier title by the time I put the video up, but you'll see what I'm meaning. So I've got my pieces together. A couple of these will be excess. I don't need them at this point, but they will be put away into my stash. And the other thing that I've been doing today is actually going through my stash and trying to find if there's a few things in there that I haven't used for a while, or ever, as the case may be. So I've cut out 4 pieces. There's 2 at 2 inches by 2.5 inches and 2 at 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches, but you could make these whatever size you want. And all I'm doing now is I'm going to round the corners and then just put the 2 same size pieces together and punch a hole near the top. Now I'm not measuring it, it's maybe about just over 1/4 of an inch down and around about 1/4 of an inch in. And I do the same on the other little set. One of the large cards I measure in about 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom and about 1/4 inch from the side, and I'm just looking at the piece that I'm going to add in. It will go in the back piece, but I'm then going to cut this out, and I'll do likewise with the smaller cards, just resizing accordingly. So I've got both cut out now, 1 piece of each size, and what I'm going to do is to back the large piece onto a piece of dictionary paper. I'm just going to use some glue stick for this, and I'm going to leave the piece of paper slightly bigger than the actual piece of the card, and that's because I want to tuck it round. So in a moment I'll just cut round that because there's way more than I need. Oh, I'm just going to roller it down, you could use a brayer or whatever, and I'm going to do each of these in a slightly different fashion just to give you options, so that hopefully no matter what supplies you have, you can do something like this. So I leave that to dry. I just gave it a minute or 2 to settle, and all I'm going to do now is to take a liquid glue and I'm going to go round the back. Now I'd meant to cut the corners off a little bit first because what I want to do is to try and retain the shape of the curve. So just going to go round that, and then I'm just going to start folding in from the edges. And there I am, just cutting the corners. It just reduces the amount of bulk on the back of the card. And I just fold all of that into place. Now, apologies for the bit of the croaky voice that I have today. I think it's just related to hay fever. Now, I'd also meant to repunch the hole, so I'm just sticking my awl through it, just so that I have a indication of where the holes are. Just going round the edges, pushing them in, just to try and get that nice round cornered edge. So I'm now going to do the front of the card, and what I've done this time is to take a piece of patterned paper, and likewise I'm going to stick this down. And again, at this point I just use my glue stick. Now I've had to put this on at speed. I don't know if I said this already, but I did have a lot of footage today, so just trying to get in the key things, but also where I'm doing gluing or the likes, I can just speed it up because you know what's involved. So I'm just going to stick that in place, and likewise I'll make sure that it's well secured. Again, I'm just going to trim around this a little bit. I do want an overhang because I want to tuck it in and around. So just cutting that, and what I'll also do is to trim out the middle. But what I want to do is to leave just about the width on either side so that I can fold this, wrap it round. Now this is just a neat way to do it. It doesn't have to be done this way. It could be cut right up to the edge. It just depends what kind of way you like to finish things off. So all I'm going to do is take the knife and cut a diagonal into the corners, and that'll just make it easier to finish off those corners. What I'll do now is to take some of the wet glue, just go around it, and then to tuck the inside edges out first and then the externals. And all I'm going to do now is to make sure I've punched the holes beforehand so that they don't get covered up again. So I've glued and now just folding that all in, and as I did with the back, I'll just try and make sure that I get a nice rounded edge. Taking the glue off my hands because if I don't, as sure as anything, my finger will stick to the paper and lift it all up again. So just going around that to neaten the edges. Now if this is going to be hanging on a wall, the back won't be seen, but I just decided to take that other piece of paper and just finish the back off as well. And I'm just going to make it slightly shorter and slightly less wide than the actual card itself, so that you'll just see a little bit of the print through. So I'll cut that and then I'll glue it in place. Just using the glue stick to do that. This particular paper that I'm putting down isn't terribly thick, so the glue stick will be sufficient in this case. And again, I'll just take my brayer and go over the top of it just to make sure that it's fully secured. So I now want to start to do some work on the other one as well. And what I've got here is some white gesso, and I'm just going to put a couple of layers of the gesso on the backing card, both on the very back of it, just to block out the product information, and on the front. This is just to give a base for paint, because what I'm going to do with this one is just to paint it, and I need to put several coats on, especially to try and hide that product information. But it's drying quite quickly because it's quite a nice day and my studio is nice and warm today. What I also want to do is just to dry brush on quite thinly some white gesso onto my backing card of the larger item. I just want to push that writing, that print, into the background a bit. So I'll do a few layers, one main layer on that and a few layers on the other. So back to my large one for the moment, and I'm just looking at how my little Tim Holtz Botanical will fit into this. And I'm going to trim a little bit off just so that it's not too bulky when I put the top on. So just looking at where I want that to be, and then I'll just trim that little bit off. Once that's done, I'm going to stick this in place just with some liquid glue. So I was going to go round the flower with my Stabilo, but I couldn't actually find it. So I'm just going to use this Faber-Castell marker. It's in I think it's raw umber, and I'm just going to smudge it out and just do a bit of shadow effect with that. Nothing too much, just a light coat. And it also just lifts the background that little bit and just helps again some of the text go further into the background. Now that that's done, I'm just going to take the same pen and go around the inside of the frame. This will just help give it a little bit of definition when it's set against the background. I didn't want to blend the colour out and onto the card, although that is a possibility. But now I'm just going to use my liquid glue again, just to glue the two pieces together. I smoothed the glue out with my finger, and now just putting the two pieces together. Cleaning the glue off my hands. just going round, making sure it matches as best I can, and I will run over it with my brayer just to push it down. You could obviously do this with a bone folder. So putting that one to the side and returning to the small one, I'm now picking two paints. One is a turquoise, and I'm going to do the back piece with turquoise, although I am going to blend it down a little bit with that white gesso. I don't want it quite as vibrant as it is, albeit I do want a nice colour of turquoise. And then the front piece I'm going to do with a bronze colour. So making sure that I get a nice coat onto this, and I will also do the back of this piece as well. So taking the bronze now, it's a metallic bronze. I'll just take another brush and go around that, and I also make sure that I get to the inside and around the very edge of it, just so that the white won't be seen. And this takes just a couple of coats. I leave that off to the side to dry, and then meantime I take one of my little scrap pieces and I'm just going to put some of the turquoise on that. I do also paint it with a green colour that you see there, but in the end I don't use the green, but I'll come back to what I'm going to use this for in a little while. So for the back piece on this, I'm going to decoupage part of a napkin. Now I could cut out a single butterfly, but what I'm going to do with this one is just to take a full piece and cover the full backing piece here. It will mean that I should get one full butterfly and maybe little bits of the other butterflies, but that's fine. So I'm just looking to see where I can get a full piece that fits in. Just cutting very loosely round this just now, and then I'm going to separate the plies. That piece was falling off, but there's another piece still attached, so I need to separate that out as well. So that piece is going to cover nicely. I'm not going to cut it down at this stage, I just want to get the whole piece down. And what I'm going to use is a matte medium. So I'm just going to spread some of the matte medium across that back piece. I just put on a little bit more because that just didn't feel quite enough. And then I'm going to take my piece of napkin. I know the butterfly that went roughly in the middle, and I'm just going to put that down, just checking that it's roughly going to be in the right place. And then all I'm going to do is put some matte medium on the top of that. I put a couple of layers of this on and I just very gently spread that out. I leave that off to the side because it's important at this point that that gets to fully dry. And this is where it's quite good to work on two different things at once, because while one's drying, I can be working on the other. So just re-punching my holes there, making sure that they're punched right through. And what I've decided to do with these is to put an eyelet in, a rivet. I actually thought I was just about out of these and that I should order some more, but then discovered when going through my stash that I actually had a couple of packets of them, so that was one of the reasons I decided to use these today. So just using the crocodile to get those into place, and of course that helps secure the back and the front together as well, albeit they are very well glued. Now I hadn't intended to, but I then decided to put a third eyelet in. So just punching right through there. Although I've got a couple of layers that actually punched through easier than I thought. And just putting in another eyelet. Now the thing about these are that you can add, embellish, decorate in whatever way you choose. Lots of scope to do different things. Now I want to make a hanging for these, so I decide to use this copper wire. I think it's 0.8 of a millimetre. This is something I like to use, but it's a long time since I used it, so I decided now was the time. So I think I cut a piece to around 9 inches. And it's not too thick, this, so I was able to just actually use my scissors to cut it through. I do have a little pair of pliers there, just so that I can push the rough ends in. But all I'm doing at this point is I've put it through and I'm just going to twist that round. Now I get a pencil and I make a small loop. And I'm just going to tighten the end bit, although I do decide just to snip a little bit off. It was just slightly too long. And I'm going to make, I think, around about 3 loops on this. Not trying to make it even in any way, but just trying to give it a bit of interest. Again, I'll just put that through the other eyelet and then turn it up and just turn that end bit in, and then I'll make sure that it's flat. So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with the bottom. I ended up looking out a couple of little rings, and all I do is put one through the eyelet and then I'm going to put another one through this, I don't know, it came with some beads that I got a while ago, and I thought I could attach this to it. It looks okay, I'm not thrilled with it, and as you'll see later I actually end up changing it. And all I'm going to do now is to take that same pit marker pen and just go around the outer edge of the card just to finish it off. So now back with the smaller card, I'll tear off the excess and then I'll just take a piece of sandpaper just to smooth it out. Now that that's done, I'm going to attach the front to it because that butterfly will be my main focal image. So again, just using some wet glue, I'll just put a few dabs on, smooth it out with my finger. I want, as far as possible, not to put too much excess on because I don't want it going across the background if possible, albeit it will dry clear anyway. Pushing it together. And then again I will take my brayer just to make certain that the two pieces are fully adhered. Now I pulled out some buttons for possible embellishments, but I also took my little heart punch, and all I'm going to do is to punch some hearts out of the piece of card that I painted. I settled on a couple of buttons that I thought might work, and I also just took a turquoise coloured pen and just went round the edges of the little hearts just because I could see the white card on those. I wasn't concerned with painting the back of them, but I did want the sides hidden. I then took some wet glue and glued, I think it was 2 of the hearts I ended up using, just glued them in place. Just use my awl there just to scrape up the little bits of excess, just trying not to get too much glue blobbing on the edges of it. So I put those in place. Now I'd picked out a kind of bronze coloured button as well, and what I want to do is I'm going to take some turquoise thread. I'm just going to put a dab of glue on the end of each end, just to harden it and to keep the threads all together, because it will just make it easier to thread through the button and then through the needle that I'm going to use. And all I do is to thread it through the 4 holes. I go diagonally into the button to begin with. And then I come out from the back through the other 2 holes. And I'll then tie a knot just to make sure that I've secured the thread. Now I did try and put a bow in this, but the thread was just not playing ball today. It wouldn't lie in a decent bow, so I just left that. But you'll see I put a little dab of glue on it there just so that it would hold the thread. So this is just embroidery thread. So, as I say, I abandoned the idea of the bow, and all I'm going to do now is to glue the button down and onto my card. You'd see there's a little bit of rough card in that corner, so this will just hide that nicely. And I'll just put a little dab of glue on the threads as well, just to make sure that that's all going to stay in place. So I've looked out a few beads, and what I'm going to do is just to string, I think 3 onto each thread. And I just tie a knot at the bottom to stop them falling off, and then I'll put another 3 on the other thread. As I did with the larger card, I'm going to make a kind of loopy piece with the copper wire, but I want to do this one slightly different, so just putting it through the hole this time, not using an eyelet. So I've got it through, I start to form a loop, but then at this point I stop because I want to thread on some of these little beads. Now I've had these beads a very long time. I think they were the first packet of beads that I probably ever bought. So I'm going back quite a few years. So I loop that round, I get 3 into place, I loop it round, start to form a loop the other way, and again I'm going to put on, I can't remember if it's just a 1 or if it's 3, maybe it's just a 1 larger one this time. Turn it round, and again I will do a 3rd loop, and I put on another 3 beads. And you know, all I'm trying to do here is to show that you use what you've got, whatever you've got, use it. No matter what kind of embellishments you have, you can use them, or you can make them in the way that I made those little hearts. And it was quite good for me to go through and find things that I hadn't used in a while. So the good thing about that copper wire is it can just be moved into place if I don't like the shape of it. You know, it's thin enough that it will probably move a few times over time, but that's okay. So just gonna finish that piece off. And there we have it. So I made a couple of others off camera just to let you see some different approaches, and this is them. So I hope this is a project that you've enjoyed. I'm just going to do a little couple of dots. Change my mind there. I mean to put them on the hearts just to make them stand out a little bit. You'll see on one of them I added one of the Tim Holtz stickers, the word stickers. You could add words to this, or you can leave as is. So on the theme of nature, I've used some of the Tim Holtz botanicals that I had in my stash, and I've also used a butterfly napkin that was in my stash. I did change the little dangles out on these. I didn't like the pointy things that I'd used, so I changed one for a bird in a cage charm, and the other one is just a rose charm. And I do like that one with the little beads on the bottom, but also the little beads around the copper wire. So please be sure to check out Nina's video as well. I'll leave a link to that and to the Mixed Media Emporium below. Do hope this is a project that you all enjoy in the Mixed Media Emporium, and if you're not in the group and want to join, then we'd certainly be pleased to see you there. And you know, I look forward to seeing what you create during the month of May for the theme of nature. So, thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Bye for now. And if you liked the video, please be sure to give me the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and feel free to share the video. Thanks again. Bye for now.